Hello guys, welcome back to the Beastly Room. Now it would appear that many of you, we had a lot of really good positive comments on our recent video covering 5 of our favourite beginner spiders. Yeah, bit of a change from some of our spicy stuff, but yes, everyone needs to start somewhere, don't they? And well, we were getting lots and lots of messages asking if we could actually do a dedicated rehouse and care video on the Tliltocatl albopilosus, or the common curly hair from Nicaragua, Costa Rica. So that is what we're going to do today, and we're going to use the same spider that we saw in that video. So we are going to make up a nice home for her in this Komodo. Now this is a 30 by 30 by 20. Let me double check that. I'm sure that is a 20. Yes, a 20. So normally we go 30 by 30 by 30, which are perfectly adequate. But we had this one on the shelf, so we thought, right, well, might as well make use of it. And it will show a different side because I say most of our terrestrials we put in 30 highs. Just purely because they look nice on the shelf. Also, that 30 centimeters in height does not create any problems for our spiders. We had a few people saying about, what if they were to fall from that great height? 30 centimeters is not a great height. This is something we will touch on in a bit because I think it's really important about people's conceptions of what they think is good and bad. So what we're going to do, we are going to rehouse our beautiful curly hair into this 20 by 20, 30 by 30 by 20. Oh my God. Komodo. And as you know, I do like my Komodos. And the reason I like my Komodos, one is the mesh tops on them are really strong. Very strong. These are centipede proof. If you've got a centipede, I use the Komodo tools for my centipedes. When we had them, we haven't actually got any centipedes at the moment. That is something that we will be doing some more of. We are going to get some more centipedes. So yeah, I use these for them. They're really strong and they're very nice. And I also like the fact that they got really clean lines, nothing obstructing them. They really are nice. So they look smart on the shelf. So that's half of what it is, isn't it? We want things to look nice. At the end of the day, many of you guys are keeping your spiders in your living room or, in the place that you spend all your time. And so, yeah, you want something nice to look at, don't you? Right then. So, here we go. We are going to stick a bit of this in here. This is just a normal, this mix here is pretty much stuff that we've salvaged from just about everywhere. So it's all mixed up, and as we've said many times, we don't use stuff that's come from other New World spiders. So this would have been material that we've had out of things like our arboreals, our fossorial spiders, mainly our Old World spiders. And the reason we don't use the New World stuff is because, as you all know, the vast majority of the New Worlds are hair kickers. And at some point or another, it would have sat in there flicking hairs about all over the place. And the last thing we want to do is have them all over our hands and stuff. So we don't recycle our New World substrates. It's just not worth it. It really is not worth it. So we've got a lovely piece of wood here. This is something that we've just pulled up out when we've been out for a walk. And we found it. And we thought, yeah, that looks nice. And we took it home. We brought it home. It's as simple as that. And it absolutely saves us a fortune, which is always really good. We do like to save money. Now then, so we've got a nice big piece, if you like, a key thing. Now, whenever we do our setups, I like to have like a key piece of material, but be that a piece of bark or maybe a plant or whatever it is. I like to have something that sort of like stands alone, stands out there. So we've also got our plant here as well. We're going to put a plant in here. I'm thinking I was actually going to, yeah, we're going to take it out of the pot. This is actually really, really quite root bound, this one. This is a succulent gasteria. Gasteria. Look at the root system on that. Oh my God. That's been in there some time, isn't it? So apparently we can tease it a little bit. Try and open it up a little bit. And hopefully it will help it do its thing. I'm sure many of you people out there that are far better with plants than I am probably have something to say about the way I just treated that. But that's how I was always taught. So we're going to put that in the corner there. Literally just make a little bit of greenery in there. That's all. That's all it's going to do. Now we can also add a little bit of moss, because many of your care sheets on these spiders, the curly hairs, the brackies and all of that, often tell you that, you know, it needs to be dry. You guys know that here on the channel, I don't like dry. I really don't like dry. So I try and add a little bit of something in this, and the moss is going to give me exactly that. Now if you look on this moss here, we have got, this is all part of the one sheet that I managed to pull up in the wild. We go and collect all our own stuff, and when I collected this, it was very, very dry, and it's still dry now. But as soon as we add some moisture to this, it will come back to life. But what I want to show you here is I am terrible with names for moss. I really don't know them. So this stuff here, this is like a carpet moss. This is very, very short, if you like. And this is the stuff we're going to use. This longer stuff here, I find often or not, many of our tarantulas don't like walking on this. I think it tickles them underneath. They're not keen on walking on it. So I use this stuff here more so than this. This still has its place though, because it's really good on a lot of the arboreal setups that we do. So what we're going to do, we are going to take a piece off, literally just tear it away like so. It's not going to be a big piece. We don't need a big piece. Take that off with a bit of shape to it like that. Now we're still getting asked questions. Is it safe? Yes, of course it's safe. Otherwise we wouldn't be using it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put that in here. I want that in there. And what we're going to do, by putting it in here like this, we are going to be able to water this, which in turn will give our plant some moisture as well. And then we're going to put, we'll put our water bottle up here. I've got a feeling our spider, these spiders generally sit out an awful lot. They don't tend to hide away too much. So we're going to put that there like so. And that is our setup. We are ready to go. We are ready to rock and roll. Look at that. Nice, simple enclosure. I'm going to get the water gun. So I'm going to fill that up here. Fill that up like that. Then what we're going to do, we're going to water our piece of moss in. We're going to give that a real nice going over. Get some moisture down in that dirt. What that will do, that will in turn feed our plant as well. So it's going to give that plenty of moisture. Right. So we're going to get our little bit of bark here. We don't need a big bit of bark, because this is a friendly spider. Well, I say friendly, we're hoping it's friendly. Right, let's move this over here. We'll get our spider out and then we'll have a little chat about some of the pros and cons of these spiders. So there she is. Here she comes. As you can see, she is not shy, but she is super, super pretty. Maybe didn't really want you to go all the way over there just yet. So as you can see there, she's off for a wander. We're going to bring her back. Come back this way. You've got plenty of time to check out your new home. Come this way. You see how we're manoeuvring her? Move her about, getting her where we want her to be. Now then, the curly hair tarantula, the Tliltocatl albopilosus. Now, these guys really are and have been the mainstay to the hobby for generations now. You know, these guys have just been in the hobby longer than any of us, I think. And as we said in the other video, it's because these guys are literally so so adaptable. You know, they are so adaptable, and they can be put up with all sorts of stuff. They can literally go with all sorts of things. Now, in terms of heat and what have you, I think that these guys are kept way too cold on the whole. The vast majority of people are still in this sort of thing where they think room temperature is really cool. And it is really cool. Too cool for these spiders, I think. The vast majority of households, their temperature fluctuates so much. And if you imagine, you know, it's like if you don't have your heating on during the daytime and you've had a cold day out at work, you come home, your house is cold. It's not very inviting, is it? And, you know, the first thing you do is flick the heating on. It then warms your house up in no time at all. Your house warms up really quickly. And then before you know it, you're sitting there in your t-shirt and your boxer shorts because it's so warm. Well, our spider has literally gone from cold to now really warm. When you go to bed, 9 times out of 10, people switch the heating off again. So now it goes back to being cold again. You know, our spider is fluctuating all the time, which isn't a good idea. If we were to treat other things like our reptiles in the same way, we would wonder why they're struggling to, you know, to actually flourish. Unfortunately, in the hobby, the same impotence is not put on our spiders. And this is something that I really wish would change in the hobby, because we need to start treating these guys exactly the same as we do all of our other pets. You know, these are not lesser pets. So what I would suggest is we give them some external heat. Now in here, we're lucky we have a designated spider room. Most people don't have this. Most people have, you know, a few spiders on a shelf in their living room or whatever. Obviously, the more spiders you end up getting, the more dedicated you become to doing stuff for them. But when you've only got one or two, it's very often easy to sort of miss these things and just go with the room temperatures enough. So what I would suggest is you get yourself a nice small heat mat, doesn't need to be nothing massive, and put it on the back wall of your enclosure. Do not put it underneath. A lot of heat mats that we see for reptiles are designed to go underneath things. We don't want that with our spider. We want it to be on the back wall, out of the way, or you can put it on the side if you like, you know, somewhere where you're not going to be looking at it. So we generally put them on the back. Put that on a thermostat, and ideally you would like to have a pulse thermostat. You can get a heat mat thermostat, which basically just switches it on, off, which to my way of thinking is not an ideal way, because what it does is it heats it up, gets it to that nice temperature, then it switches it off. So then it cools down. As soon as it cools down below the temperature that you've set it for, it switches it back on. So you imagine if we put it back to the scenario of us at home, every time it gets a bit warm, switch the heating off. Then we sit there until we shiver and we're like, cool, that's a bit chilly. Put the heating back on. and we put it back on again. We are up and down all the time. This is not an ideal scenario. So I would urge you to get a pulse thermostat. Now, with a pulse thermostat, it basically keeps it on all the time, running consistently at the temperature that you set it at. And that is what our spider requires. That's what it needs. So spend the extra money. You know, they are more expensive than a mat stat, but you are getting a whole lot more for your money. They're much, much better, and they're better designed. I personally wish the reptile industry as a whole would throw away the mat stat because they're absolutely diabolical in my mind. We've used all different types over the years for many different animals, reptiles, whatever, and they really are not that good. So go with a pulse thermostat. That is the way to go. So if you're new to all of this, now all of a sudden you've gone from a cheap spider, because these are cheap to purchase, and if you went with the it's okay at room temperature, all you've had to do is buy an enclosure and your spider is pretty much done. It's there. But what you won't have is a happy spider. So this is what we're aiming for. This is what we're trying to get across to everybody now. That, you know, these spiders deserve to be happy and live in optimum conditions. And we can supply them conditions. It just costs us a little bit more to do it. If you were thinking of buying a snake or whatever, many of you wouldn't think twice about going down that road and getting a pulse thermostat. But when it comes to a spider, everyone tends to urge on the let's go cheap. It's not necessarily the best way. Right, so that is going to cover its heating. Now, in terms of humidity, if we go with a setup like we've described with a heat mat on the back, you need to be very, very careful how you do your humidity, because your humidity is going to vary drastically. Because if we have a heat mat on the back here and we water at the front, this front is not getting any heat from this heat mat, so it's not benefiting from that heat mat. So our area here, especially the moist soil, will be cold. The only time we will get a rise in humidity out of that moisture is when our room that it's in is really warm. Yeah? If our room is normal, we're not going to get the same effect. It's not going to be the same. So we have to be careful then with how much we actually water, because what you will end up with, if there's no evaporation, this will just get wetter and wetter and wetter, which is the bad thing. Yeah, we don't want that for our spider. These spiders, although they come, you know, they like a dry environment to be in, they also benefit from some air humidity as well. And coming in from Costa Rica and places like that, these spiders are often found in low cloud forest, so it's got quite good humidity, high humidity, but it also has a higher temperature. So we're looking at, you know, doing stuff like that. There is other ways of heating these, but they are more advanced. We can use heat bulbs, but this is a very advanced way of actually doing it. And I would not suggest that to anyone who's beginning in this hobby. You know, steer clear of stuff like that until you get the fundamentals understood and you know exactly what you're doing. So, oh, she's on the move. We've come to say hello. Isn't she absolutely beautiful? Really, really beautiful. So, we've got our humidity, we've got our heat. Now we're looking at food. Now remember, if you're a beginner, everything your spider eats the only thing it's going to eat is whatever you give it. And the quality of your food is only going to be as good as what you're feeding it. So if you go down the pet store and where are you going? No, we don't want you going down there. If you go down the pet store and you buy your box of crickets off the shelf, chances are these are going to be really, really poor in their actual goodness. And this is purely because 9 times out of 10, they've not been fed in the pet store at all. They've come straight in from the supplier. They wouldn't have been fed for a day or two. and they might have been sat on a shelf for a couple of days. So these guys have got no goodness in them whatsoever. So it's important that you look after your live food as well. Let's bring her back out here. She obviously likes to have a little walk around the desk. So yeah, so what I would suggest, and also to save you money, get yourself a little tub where you can put your live food in it and you can feed it. Let's bring her back over this way. Not under there. No. Thank you. So we want a small, a small simple tub to keep our live food in, and then we can feed it greens. We can give it a little bit of carrot, give it a bit of orange, a bit of apple, all these things to hydrate our food. And this is going to make our food really, really worthwhile. It's going to be good quality food. That means then that our spider is getting a 5-star diet, which is exactly what we should be aiming for. I would never feed food items like our roaches, our crickets, or anything like that bought straight off the shelf from the pet store. It really is a bad idea. Get them out, feed them, hydrate them, then use them as your food. And things will be absolutely perfect. So then, we touched on the heat. Talking of heat, we want to keep these guys, I believe, around about the 75 at the lowest. I don't really like to go any lower than that. And then we can take them right up to 80, 85. When we get the real hot spells in our room, we've been at over 90 degrees and these guys flourish. They love it. Absolutely love it. But that is an overall temperature. It's an overall room temperature, so they do really, really well. So looking at really 75 to 80, the low 80s, you'll be fine on your shelf. It'll be absolutely perfect. She's quite active now. And again, if you want to keep them going, feed them small items often rather than big items. And then that way you won't bloat her out and she'll be nice and happy. Right then. I think what I'll do, let's put her in there, shall we? And we'll see what she makes of her new enclosure. There we go, you can do it. There we go, she's in. You see how steady these guys are? They really are cool. We'll just let her have a little wander around. Now, we touched on the subject of height within our enclosures. Now, this as a beginner video, and hopefully this is going to be useful for everyone that's coming into the hobby with no real knowledge of what's going on, and trying to pick through some of the bones, because there's so much what I class as misinformation out there. It's just very, very poor information. And a lot of the information, especially on beginner spiders, is the same information that we were fed 30, 40 years ago. It is so outdated, it's unbelievable. So we need to move forward. And hopefully this video will try and clarify some of them points. Now, when we look at the height of an enclosure, this is absolutely ideal. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to do any harm to itself. We can go even higher. As we said at the beginning, most of our enclosures are 30 centimetres tall. Now, with a 30 centimetres tall enclosure, this is still not high enough for our spider to damage itself. These guys, when they move around, they are very slow, they're very methodical in what they do, and they're not silly. People seem to think that spiders are just going to climb up things and leap off for the hell of it. This doesn't happen. They do not want to hurt themselves any more than you do. So, they're very, very careful. They're also very adept at climbing glass. They can walk up and down it better than you can walk in a straight line, I am sure. So they are very, very cool at what they do. So 30 centimetres height is absolutely nothing at all. Now, they're not going to hurt themselves, unless you've got really, really, I don't really know of many situations where you could have something that bad in there that is actually going to cause a problem. One of the things that can cause problems is things like, we often see, we use it as well sometimes, stones. We sometimes use stones in our enclosures, rocks and things. If you've got a really, really heavy rock sat on top of the soil and there's soil underneath it, if your spider burrows, there is a chance that that rock will fall down and trap your spider and maybe kill it. So if you're using large stones and rocks, make sure they're actually placed on the base of your enclosure and then fill your dirt in around them so that they can't fall down any further. They can't go anywhere. So that's a real cool thing. You know, you often see, especially on desert spiders, people using stones and rocks and things like that. So just be aware of that. Be careful of it. But with the height, they're not going to cause any problems. Same with the mesh lids. We've used mesh lids on all of ours for a long, long time, and we've not had any issues at all. You will often find your spider climbing across the top on the mesh. If it's doing it of its own accord, they're fine. They're not going to have any problems. I think one of the things is with the spider hobby is that, you know, there has been occasions where spiders have been hung up for whatever reason. They've been caught out. We never normally find the full backstory to a lot of these. All we find out is a post that says, "My spider died because of the mesh top." You know, we never really get to the backstory. We've been doing this an awful long time, and I've not had a spider die from being caught on a mesh roof yet. So I don't put a lot of weight in it. I'm sure there are instances where it has happened, but it is very few and far between. And like I say, we want to see the full backstory. As you can see, she's climbing the glass now. She's doing her thing. And she's under no danger. Look at that. Now, we've recently done a video, a little short video, one of the shorts on YouTube, of some feather-legged baboons and the Stromatopelma cauciatum, feather-legged baboon. And we had one there, a male, that we took out of a box, and he ran up my arm. And then he ran back down my arm, and from my arm, we were like this on the desk, and from my arm, he jumped and landed on the desk. And we had a few comments. I'm surprised he didn't die. Why on earth would he die? Really? This is an arboreal spider. And they're quite happy jumping and leaping about in the treetops. You know, these guys are built to doing this. Also, what you've got to think of as well is that spider weighs next to nothing. There is no weight in that little male spider. So he's not going to do himself any damage. When we talk about spiders landing, and you see the reports on Facebook and that, you know, my spider fell and split its abdomen, it died, you know, all these sort of horror stories, 9 times out of 10 it's because the spider was grossly, and I mean grossly, overfed. Its abdomen was fit to burst, and the slightest little damage to that abdomen would split it. A healthy spider, this spider here, you've seen her size of her abdomen, she could jump off this desk onto our carpeted floor, which is 3 foot down, and she would be perfectly fine. You know, they land very much like cats. They land on their feet, and if she is looked after and she is kept at a sensible weight, there is absolutely no danger to her damaging herself like that. It would be an absolute miracle for her to really damage. She'd have to land on something really bad, you know, like a corner of something or an edge of something. That might just about do it. But just landing flat to the floor, perfectly fine. And it's just not an issue. So what I'm trying to get at is I want you guys to, you know, use some common sense. Think about things in a logical way, especially if you're new to the hobby. You know, don't get too caught up in all the horror stories. You know, we get many, many messages of people, you know, worrying about different things, and a lot of it is so unnecessary. It really is. So you just got to be a little bit sensible and treat everything with a little bit of common sense. Don't she look absolutely wonderful on that piece of wood? She looks beautiful. Now, in terms of size, this is a 30 by 30 square in floor space, and this is more than enough, more than adequate for this adult spider. she will thrive in this particular enclosure. She will do really, really well. And I think it actually looks quite pretty to look at as well. Looks really cool. Right then. Well, I hope you like that little showcase. And if you want to see more things like this, then put it down in the comments, and we can see what we can do. Yeah, they just are a wonderful, wonderful first-time spider. Anyone should be more than happy to have one. Even if you've been in it a long time, they're still really great. Right then. Don't forget, guys, be calm, be gentle, and love your spider. And I'll see you all soon.